This is funny. You know how people are in the bodybuilding industry. And I met you, and then somebody else saw me talking to you, and then they messaged me later, and I actually knew them affiliated with Boston. They're like, you know Compton? I'm like, no, I just met him for the first time. He's like, dude, he's made so much ground since nationals. I feel like they're using special drugs. They got to be using something very different. Like, I'm looking at his body and how much it's changed. It doesn't make sense. I have a feeling that like someone who's telling me that they're experimenting with this or that, and I'm like, bro, come on.
That was around the time that the Oxygen crew came around, and just because they produced Big Ronnie. So like people were thinking like there was these and this is also when you hear about like MGF, IGF, like the follistatin, the myostatin stuff. So people actually thought that, like, I try to explain this to them now, and I say, look, if I had a drug that could make people look like me and make, or better yet, if I had a drug that could transform anyone like 100 pounds of muscle, why would I not do that on every single client? Now I would just be the best coach in the world and making millions of dollars. Like, if it was that simple, why would I not just teach them all the secret sauce? And then again, there'd be no other coach. It would just be me if I knew there was like a secret drug.
It's funny how people like can't rationalize that some people are just born a Honda Civic and some people are born a Porsche 911 Turbo. And when you do hard work and learn how to drive a Porsche 911 Turbo, you can go pretty fucking fast. But no matter how good you are at driving a Honda Civic, or no matter what modifications you could put into it, it's never going to be a Porsche 911.
Not going to keep up.
That's never going to keep up. They have to justify all this weird shit.
Yeah, I remember at the time people would make comments, and I used to get very, now I look back and I laugh at it, but I used to get very, like, I don't know if I would say offended, but angry. People like, oh, he's got this in his arms, or he's taking this, or he's taking that. So I remember one guy from a major website that I won't name him, he kind of insinuated to it as well. And I said, okay, I know you got some money. So here's what we'll do. I said, order a CT scan. I'll order a CT scan. And you tell me 365 days of the year. I don't care what day it is. I'll schedule, I'll book the appointment. And if we find anything funky in my arms, I'll write you a check for $50,000. But if there's not anything in there, we're going to put in a contract. You owe me $50,000. And yeah, that shut him up pretty fast. He didn't want to tell, like, you're so confident of it. Why not take my 50 grand?
That was beautiful. Actually, now that you say that, there was, I'm not going to name the name, I got out of respect, but on getbig.com, one of the major pros was betting me something. And he called it testicular fortitude. You know, what? I'm going to bet you for $50,000 and check your testicular fortitude. I say, the bet is on. And he was wrong. And I never got the money or heard from him.
But no, if I did it, I wanted to have it like legal document, legal contract, and I was going to pursue it too.
Yeah, that's great. So they were suggesting you have some Synthol or something?
That was a suggestion, yes.
Well, I tell you this, I was in Europe and you came with a storm nobody expected. Being in Europe, you know, you see limited stuff, and then like 2015, boom, like top 3 at Arnold Classic, and losing to Dexter and Branch, but beating Cedric, Raleigh, Brandon Curry. I mean, those are major names, you know. So you were really up and comer. And then 2016, you won a couple of shows. And then 2017, I know when I was returning here, I was really looking forward to see you. For some reason, I never read that you had any health issues. Now that explains. I thought maybe you got married, this and that, changed your priority.
No, that's not what happened back then. As a matter of fact, I did get engaged in 2017. That was incredibly short-lived. Again, I don't think my head was screwed on right. And I'm not talking bad about her or anything, but I just don't think that we were really meant to be to begin with. And I was trying to force something to happen.
You know, it's funny. It's like, it would have pissed me off too, because when people say shit like that, it discredits your consistency and hard work. Like, let's be honest, bodybuilding is made up of a lot of genetics. However, the guys at the top are putting in the work with their genetics. So when someone makes up shit like that, it's like, okay, you're discrediting me being 100% through the whole offseason when you're not. And you just claiming this and that takes away from that consistency and hard work. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that used to actually, the word genetics actually used to piss me off too, because now as I'm older and I see like where I'm at, because I was the guy who did not, and I remember, I think we talked about this at North Americans. Like, I took my off season just as serious as I did contest prep. Like, Literally nothing changed. I win or I lose the show. Everything goes back to normal tomorrow because that was my normal to live like that. And, you know, it was 6 meals plus a shake post workout or just 6 meals for the day. And it was training 5, 6 days a week, high volume, maybe one cheat meal a week in the off season. And that's if I really felt like it was necessary or I wanted to do it. But like the guys that would like feel like there was a secret to it was the ones that I would literally see. I can tell you right now, I can name 3 names, but I won't name them because they are very relevant and I like them too. But one guy I saw drinking at a bar, I was the guest poser of the show. He's there too, and he's drinking at a bar, and he wins a show 3 weeks later. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, he looked good to win a pro show, right? But I'm just thinking out loud, like I was around this guy for a good 10 hours straight, and I did not see him consume one meal. Like he
Yeah.
did not eat one time, and then he gets drunk that night, and somehow shows up and wins a show like 3 weeks later. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how is
That,
this
that must
possible?
be
Like,
nice. Must be nice.
yeah, it's really nice. But if you think about it, what if he applied himself the same way that I applied myself? Like, imagine where he could have been at that point.
Okay.
So I used to get upset when people would like just kind of discount like my work because like, oh, well, he takes XYZ or he does this. And then I came to realize like maybe I do have good genetics. Like that's not questionable now. And at the time, I probably thought I had. If you would have asked me 10 years ago about my genetics, I would be like, yeah, they're subpar. I just outwork you. And
Well,
I still think I outworked everyone else. I just had good genetics to go with it.
what's funny, Justin, is it's simple as this. It's when we hear genetics, we hear it's discounting what we're doing. And when we don't think we have good genetics is because we're always looking at the person we're trying to beat.
Yeah.
Or looking at that person who doesn't give it 100%. But like we forget, we don't look at the thousands of people behind us who are trying to do what we can, but they can't, right? Even
Yeah.
with that consistently hard work.
Yeah, I've been around a lot of people before. Like a couple of my close friends that we've literally trained in the same gyms. I watched them train with as much and sometimes, and I don't say this lightly because I feel like I wanted it just as bad as like I feel like my hunger to be Mr. Olympia was just the same as Phil Heath's. Obviously didn't beat Phil, but like these guys, a couple of them that I was around, they were just as hungry as I was. And I knew that they really wanted in the gym. We were buying stuff from the same guy, if you get my drift on that. So it's not like I had a special connection. And I know these guys were dieting, and at one point I prepped them. So it was like, this is where genetics does step up to play. Is like clearly we're running like the same cycle, and I made it to where I was at, and they didn't. And it wasn't due to lack of effort either.
Okay, so what you're saying is they train just as hard as you, they take just as much as you, and then later on you actually put them on a diet, and you put them on similar diet that you were on, but they didn't respond like you were
Well,
responding.
it wasn't really like the same diet, you know. It was basically my knowledge, and I was trying my best to get them at the highest level possible,
Mhm.
and they didn't get to where I was at. As far as like the PED side of things,
Mhm.
it was pretty much identical to what I took.
Yeah.
And their training, when I would watch them train, like this guy's like my best friend, and he's still competing, and he's getting better and better and better. But it's been a very slow progress. Of course, he's had multiple setbacks. But I remember he was doing squats one day, and he got a nosebleed in the middle of the set. And I noticed it before he did because there was a mirror in front of us, and I was like, "Hey, man, you might want to rack that." He's like, "Fuck that!" He's like, "I'm doing 2 or 3 more," and he just spits blood all over the mirror and keeps going. I'm like, "Okay, man, that's some serious
Sorry.
heart right there."
Yeah, that's a serious heart right there.
Yeah, I feel like if I was like pouring blood, like going into my mouth, at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take this set and just take it as a loss and rack it and go on and fix my problem.
Actually, well, now that you say that, I must say this story. I was doing a training camp in Australia, and there was a guy Tyson that's supposed to do the my giant sets with the squats, with the leg press, with the hack squats, and all this
Yeah.
shit. And he starts squatting, and right away, blood goes. Ugh. So he racked it, and he maybe does this all the time. He had a like tissue and stuck it in, right? And go back, and now it's going from the other side. So when he did 10 reps, racked it, put in the other one, and now with the two, and I have pictures, I might post it. He went on the hack squats and on everything. By the end of the workout, that set, he crawled out of the gym and puked. And then he was so out of it, he laid in his own puke, and then ants came and attack him.
Like, Layne Norton, like I have like average people, no one wants to believe this. Layne Norton found a study on this. Maybe it was new, maybe it's old, but he's the one I saw that published it, or he's the one who brought it to light to me. And there was a study that showed that like when you've taken PEDs before, it alters something on a cellular level. Again, this is above my scope of knowledge and my scope of practice and well beyond my knowledge of science. But like I read about 3/4 of that article and I was like, that's got to be what it is, because like I said, I sit between 230 and 240. My workouts are nowhere near as intense as they used to be. I don't take gear other than TRT because I have to take that. And my food and my diet is all over the place. Like, and I still maintain, pretty relatively low body fat, not like a professional bodybuilder low, but like better than 99% of society. And when I tell them like, this is what I'm doing, the first thing comes to head was, he's still on. He's still throwing all these drugs at himself. I'm like, no, I'm not. But Layne published that study that basically says like you alter your body at a cellular level when you take PED. So even when you stop, the muscle doesn't just disappear completely as long as you're still training. And I still train, obviously. Again, not at the same level, but like I don't think I would have acquired 230 or 40. I don't think I would have acquired what I have now if I would have just been completely natural my entire life. I really don't.
100%. Yeah. And then you have that muscle memory. Like your body knows. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I went through a phase just recently where I didn't really weight train much at all, like twice per week, a lot of cardio, carbs are low, food was low. And then I just started weight training consistently like a bodybuilder in the last month. And people are like, holy shit, man, did you jump out and cycle again? It's like, no, I didn't. It's just like your body just starts to be like, oh, I remember. Starts to fill out a little bit more again.
Well, the same thing with me back, this was 3 years ago now, since I used to do this a little bit post-retirement. It was like, the only person I was testing was myself, just to see if I still had what it takes. Can I still do this? And not like the old way, but like just stay on TRT and just train and diet like a bodybuilder and just see how good or not good that you actually are. And I would get down to like 215 to 218 pounds. But what people didn't understand is like I would drop from like 233, 235 to like 218. So it's not like a huge drop. But the fact that my conditioning was there, like I looked like I was 2 to 3 weeks out again. And because I have like naturally bubbly muscles, like that's not something I don't think you can train for. You have good muscle insertions or you don't, right? So people would see me in the gym in a tank top. And I remember like I posted a photo, I was in a yellow tank. And people was like, oh, he's back on, he's coming back. I'm like, no, I'm not coming back, and I'm also not back on. And I argue with guys like, they're like, well, what are you taking? I'm like, we really don't even need to have this conversation, because if I tell you, it's worthless. Like it's literally worthless.
They're going to dismiss you anyway.
Well, I'm curious. Okay, my TRT is 250 a week annotate, and I have a 50 milligram DECA. I have it from Serbian pharmacy, legitimate. That's my 250 test and 50 DECA. That's my TRT forever and ever. And like you said, I don't deserve to look this good, with what I'm doing, what I'm taking, in sense like, I mean, back in like 10 years ago, you would never expect that, okay, if I do just this, I can look like that, right? Because it takes more. On that note, I didn't see that study is Layne Norton published, that there is some cellular adaptation.
Check it out. Like when we get off this, if you go to his page, you may have to scroll back like a year and a half to 2 years, but that's literally what Layne does. Is he posts like actual studies to back up like his theories.
So what is your TRT?
Mine is at 250 now as well. So when I first retired, I walked into the endocrinologist office. I did not go to a primary care physician. I very specifically wanted to see the endocrinologist, because I was like, this is the guy who's going to give me what I need. He's not going to sit here and just belittle me for what I've done in my past. And I remember sitting down with the guy. I was 29 or 30, I think, at the time. And I know he's looking at me thinking that, man, this guy's still pretty big. He's probably on gear. So I just showed him my pictures. I was like, here's where I was. I was like, you, as my doctor, you got my full medical history. You can see. And I said, I'm done. I said, I don't feel the need to do this anymore. And he ran my test levels and they came back at 81. That was my test. When I say I stopped, I cold turkey stopped. And that's when a lot of shit, my physique was like those levels at
you feel
81, everything
terrible.
sucked. Like appetite sucked. It's like I'm getting fat, I'm losing muscle, sex drive's not there, depression's there, the typical low testosterone symptoms. And I had a very long conversation with this doctor and I told him everything that I'd used. But before I got to that, he goes, man, you bodybuilders, y'all are crazy. I was like, yeah, why do you say that? He goes, because you all actually stack these drugs together. You take like 2 or 3 things at one time. And I'm like, 2 or 3? If you only know the real truth. Right? And I actually told him, he's just sitting there with his jaw dropped. And he goes, I want to start you on Clomid. And I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I've done this in the past and it does not put me at an optimal level. Like, no matter how much you want me to take. He goes, 25 milligrams 3 times a week. And I'm like, I said,
What?
doc, in all due respect, I've taken 100 milligrams daily on my own. And he goes, oh, you'll be surprised. Well, my levels came back at 92. So clearly we didn't get anywhere with that. That was, I think, after 6 to 8 weeks of that. So he said, because of what you've told me, he goes, I actually believe you. He goes, because you have no idea how many guys that come in my office that will basically do a cycle, crash their test levels just to get TRT, and then work their cycles around my blood work. And he goes, I'm smart enough to see through that. He goes, but you're actually telling me the truth. And he's like, because of that, I'm going to give you TRT. And I'm like, okay. And he writes it for 100 milligrams. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay. I was like, I'm going to do what he says for a period here just to appease this guy. My levels came back at like 400, 420. And I told him, I'm like, I feel better, but I don't feel optimal. I don't feel like, a 30-year-old man should feel. And he goes, nope, you're good. I said, I don't think I'm good. I said, look, this is a guy who came from 1,200 milligrams and now I'm on 100. I don't feel right. Like, I feel better. I'm improved, but it's not where it needs to be. So he fought me on, and to be fair about it, he never did up the dosage. He never would. So I actually told him in 2019, I think, I had not met my insurance deductible at that point. So I was like, look, Florida has a law that you have to see your endocrinologist every 3 months now, or at least that's what he told me, in order for the prescription to stay valid. I was like, you're charging me like $500 a pop for your office visit. The lab work that you're running so much shit that you don't even need to prescribe testosterone. Like, your checking levels that is irrelevant to what we're doing. You're costing me like $500 on the labs, and then I'm paying $20 a milliliter out of the pharmacy for this. Like, dude, I'm paying like $3,000 a year just to get TRT. I said, so we're either going to do this the easier or the hard way. Either you can bump it to 200 and see me every 6 months, or I'm just going to do it on my own. And he just wished me farewell. And I said, okay, well, have a good day. To my knowledge, we still got a good relationship if I ever needed the guy again. But like 100 wasn't getting it done. So I went to 200, and then I eventually went to 250. And that's like where I feel good. My levels stay between they're a little over 1,000. They're like in the 1,100 range.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel optimal, and that's where I'm going to stay at.
Exactly.
you know what's funny is like my father's a physician, right? And I talk about this all the time about different levels and what he'd prescribe and what not. And then I ask him and I tell him stories about other doctors and how they respond to treating certain patients. And my dad's I may be biased, but like my dad's a good doctor in the sense of like, he has the perspective of this. He goes, Chris, we don't go to school to deal with optimizing hormones. We don't. Like, we understand that there's a range, and therapeutically, when we prescribe, we're supposed to get that patient within a certain range. And obviously, we're not over here sitting there trying to push the envelope and getting a higher range and having someone all of a sudden get high hematocrit, change their lipids, high blood pressure. So we're overall just trying to treat the patient and what they're trying to do. And think about this. Say we have somebody who comes in off the street and they want to be optimized and we increase their levels. They get high blood pressure, something bad happens and they sue us. Okay. So
Yeah.
you have to understand that he's like, this happens a lot. And the other aspect is doctors know what they know. And then 2, they're going to skate within the laws of what they feel the most comfortable. That's why some doctors would be like, hey, doc, you got to drain this. And the doc's like, I'm not draining that. You got to go see somebody else. Because they know how to do it, but they don't feel comfortable doing it. And they rather have somebody else deal with it. So that's what we
because
always
there's legalities with it.
Yeah, legalities with it or knowledge. And he goes, they know what they know. He goes, you might go into like a big city that's popular, that has a lot of athletes. You might get a doctor who's willing to push the envelope a little bit. And he's probably very popular. He probably knows exactly what he's doing. And then you go in the middle of nowhere in Maine, and they probably even know what testosterone is. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I'm always assuming that like a lot of doctors are going to respond the way my father always has to me when I broke my bones over the years and all the injuries and how he says. And I hear other doctors respond to some of my clients. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And sometimes my dad will be like, that doesn't need to see another doctor. Or he goes, oh, that makes sense. I could see that perspective.
Yeah. And every doctor's a little bit different. Like when I was 22, I think is when I started noticing like my sleep patterns, my sleep issues were coming to the surface. And I had a doctor that was prescribing me Ambien, and she wanted to do blood work. And I got thinking, I was like, maybe I need to check my estrogen levels while I'm here. So I just asked her to. And she sees, now at the time, I was running, I think I was in contest prep because I was on train. So I know I had to be in prep to do this. And, like back then, I don't understand what the deal with this was. And maybe one of you guys know. But have you ever seen like train create a false positive with estrogen?
Yes, 100%. A lot, actually.
My estradiol came back at like 350. And she freaks the hell out. And I'm thinking like, well, this is a good thing because I know this is not real. I said, I'm going to see if she'll prescribe me a Arimidex. Instead, I get a letter in the mail like 2 weeks later that said I'm discharged as a patient and I'm no longer welcome back because she saw me as a liability.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. So she actually discharged me. I was a normal, healthy male at 22 years old. And she's like, nope. Like she couldn't come out and say, I know you're taking steroids. She couldn't say it like make an accusation because when she asked me, I denied it.
But dude, but you know what's really terrible about that? And I asked my father about that same sort of situation that happened with my other clients. I'm like, Dad, have you ever denied a client and told them to discharge them because they couldn't manage their diabetes correctly, or they weren't losing weight, or they weren't managing their medications because their lifestyle is just shit, don't take care of themselves? Have you ever stopped treating a patient because they're an alcoholic? You ever stopped treating a patient because they wouldn't stop smoking cigarettes? No, I didn't think so. And I go, why is it okay for them to do that? And he goes, well, honestly, that's wrong. And honestly, that could be a lawsuit because discharging a patient because they're living like, if they're addicted to heroin and they come in and they want help trying to get off heroin, but they keep relapsing, you're just going to kick them to the curb because you don't give a shit? No, but with anabolics, people view it differently.
Very differently.
Dude, listen, man, this is a great podcast. I wanted to catch up with you, dude. I think you're doing a hell of a job with your clients, and you have for a long time. I've always looked up to you with a lot of the things you've done with Justin O'Donnell. That was incredible, the changes you made, and obviously Joe. But dude, it's I know you probably feel the same way as I do about coaching people now. It's just like, it's kind of what I live for now. Like I love helping my guys, and I love seeing it all play out how it does. And obviously when it doesn't play out great, it sucks, but it's part of it, right?
Yeah, you're not going to win with every single client. That's part of the game.
I was going to just say this because both of you are now coaching extensively. Chris was so nervous, like so stressed. And I know I've been there. When we compete ourselves, we are nowhere near as nervous as when we have a client.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair about it, I think I was more nervous for Joe than he was himself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could see his expression just like calm and relaxed. And I'm like, how the fuck are you calm and relaxed right now?
But you know it is, Justin, it's like we're like dads. So it's like we're nervous, but our face is completely stoic and we're very confident. But inside you're like analyzing the good decisions. I'm following the data. What I did was correct. Don't second guess yourself. Everything's going as planned. In your head, you're like, oh my God, but what if it wasn't? And then he's like, yeah, how's everything going? It's great.
Yeah, I basically looked at him like every 2 to 3 times a day for like a week straight. And then like 3 times a day of the show. And I'm like, I know everything's right where it's at. And I know it's right where it needs to be. But in my head, I'm still like stressed.
Yeah.
Like the work was done. It was over, but I was still stressing.
I remember Milos kept messaging me, and then Jose kept messaging me being like, yo, how's Jordan looking? And I'm like, I think all right. I think so. Like, I don't know. Like, they're like, what do you mean you think? I don't know. I'm just following like what I'm doing and it's progressing how it should. But like, I don't know. Like, I try to look, it is, you want your guy to do well, but I try to look at it as unbiasedly as I can. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at the physique and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to look at it and go, whoa, wow. I want to look at it as in like, okay, what was it before? Where are we going? What direction are we headed? What's the you know what I mean? Like, that's what I try to
and were you've been with Jordan for a while, right?
Yeah, 5.5 years, 6 years.
So it's like when you look at him, you almost, I feel like you would need, and because it's the same with Joe, I need to look at him as like a strain, like somebody I don't know.
Yeah.
And critique him based off of that. Like, I don't know you at all, because that's how I coach myself too. Like, I basically just didn't look at my face, and I just looked at the body and the changes. But like, when you get to know someone for a long period of time, you got to take that biasness out of it. I mean, and obviously you guys did a great job. I saw Jordan's pictures at like 3 weeks out, and I'm like, fuck. Like, and my head was like, okay. And I even told Joe, I said, your biggest hitter is going to be Jordan. And to be fair about it, I think you guys won Tampa last year too. He got third, if I'm not mistaken, but I had him winning that. It should have been either between him and Mo Photo. Like, that should have been 1 and 2. Like, De La Rosa, I was there, I was live, I had him in 4th. I don't know where that came from, but like, I remember telling Jordan that. He was just very humble and just said thank you. And Jordan's a great guy, but like, I did have him winning that show last year. Him or Mo, either one would have been a good choice, because they were both. Jordan was more conditioned, Mo was a little bit more muscular. John didn't bring like superb muscularity because he's at the back end of his career, and I think his body was fading. And he also didn't bring like mind-blowing conditioning either.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But no, Jordan brought a very good package, so I'm happy for both of you guys. He had the most complete, polished look on stage. I mean, there was no flaws anywhere.
I appreciate that.
Everything from his tan, without even talking about his physique, but like the tan and his confidence that he showed. Like, when he walked out, he knew he was on.
Yeah, both of your guys at both shows were excellent.
Joe at Texas Night Show. Holy shit. I was like,
for finals?
Yeah, finals. I was like, damn, like, for me personally, Jordan, we peaked perfectly for prejudging. I didn't think there was nothing I could have done differently for prejudging. Looking back at it, I probably could have withheld a little bit more water as a night show. His night show was just a little bit less dry. But like, Joe came back a night show, and I was like, holy shit.
Well, you want to know why I think that was? And this is not your fault. You know how long they drug that out? Like, from the time that they said the show was going to start, they were late. I mean, I liked the production they did, but in the back of my head, I'm sitting here thinking, like, they're going on stage like 2.5 hours later than expected. Like, these guys are probably pumping up, standing around backstage. And I was worried. Like, I kept like popping in back there to kind of look at things, just to make sure everything was going good. But because it was so late, I think it actually played to Joe's advantage, because I didn't give him any water or anything. And unfortunately, I think it may have worked against Jordan just standing around. It may have caused him to hold a little bit of water.